All right, so I'm still working inside kerned-and-track.psd. We're midway into creating this new block of area type. I've gone ahead and copied the numerical diet text that already resided inside of this document, and I drew a new text frame with the type tool, and then I pasted the text, set it to Myriad Pro regular, type size 19, leading of 21. Now let's go ahead and set the headline independently of the body, and that's something I could do. So you don't have to have all of your text inside of a single text layer set to the very same attributes. You can mix and match attributes as much as you want. So I'm going to click in front of the L and learn. Notice there's a space between the L and learn and the exclamation point after diet. I'm going to delete that space and then press the Enter key or the return key on the Mac in order to add a carriage return. And now I'm going to go ahead and select numerical diet, that entire line, which is broken onto two lines right now, and I'll select that text as follows. I want you to know how this works. You can drag across text to select it. You can double-click a word to select the entire word. You can triple-click 1, 2, 3. You'll select a line. And basically, you want to click fairly slowly. You don't want to whip through your clicks because you can make mistakes if you do. And then finally, if you want to select an entire paragraph, you click 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like so, and that'll get numerical diet, the entire thing selected there. All right, so there's a few different attributes we're going to apply this time around. I'm going to stick with Myriad Pro. That font is fine, but then I'm going to tab over to my style option, and I'm going to change it from regular to bold condensed. Notice that we have big, huge previews of our styles. That's nice. I'll go ahead and choose bold condensed, and we get an effect like so. I'll tab over to the size value, and I'm going to change it to 39. And then I'll tab to leading and change it to 32. Now you might look at that and say, wait a sec, before we had a type size of 19 over a leading value of 21, which seems like that gives us plenty of room to work. But now we've got this type size of 39 set inside of a smaller leading value of just 32. And we're really squishing our text together. Well, it happens to work for this text just brilliantly because we don't have any descenders. If I had a G right there at that location, and then below that G, which has a descender, I had something like a K, which has an ascender, they would run right into each other. But the word is not nougat, and the other word is not miracle or whatever, so we don't have that problem. Because we don't have descenders declining into the ascenders, then we can get away with a less than solid leading value. So solid leading is if we set a type size of 39 on a leading value of 39. Here we're going smaller than that. And we're getting very tight leading indeed, which tends to work out very nicely for headline text, by the way. All right, I'm going to select this entire paragraph once again. And a paragraph goes from one carriage return to the next. So I'll go ahead and select the entire paragraph by 1, 2, 3, 4 clicking. And I find that it helps to count just because it can be a little confusing at times. Now, I had to work with bold condensed, incidentally, because bold was too darn wide, as you can see here. Ends up with big, blocky letters. I don't want that. So I'll press Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac to switch back to bold condensed. However, that text is a little too narrow. Well, you do have these options here for either vertically scaling your selected text or horizontally scaling your selected text. And you'll sometimes hear type aficionados warn against using these options because it basically molests the letter forms so that the vertical elements can end up looking wider or narrower than the horizontal elements. But if you enter very small values here, it can be fine. For example, I say that you can go as low as 80% or as high as 120% with these values without incurring any real visible damage. And I'm going to take my value here up 10% by selecting this horizontal scale and pressing Shift up arrow like so. And that just gives a little more weight to my text without harming the letter forms at all. And that is my final effect where this text is concerned. I'm going to go ahead and press the Enter key on the keypad, where that'd be Control-Enter on the PC, Command-Return on the Mac, in order to accept my modifications. And I'll go ahead and zoom out. The next thing we need to do is take Make Him Love You in less than 5 minutes and create a fairly symmetrical text frame over here on the left-hand side and repeat this formatting. Now, one of the things that Photoshop CS5 was going to introduce, and Adobe's made this pretty public, they were going to include style sheets with which you could repeat formatting attributes. And that would have been really awesome because we could have taken all the styling we applied here and replicated it for this text on the left-hand side of the cover. However, that feature didn't quite come through. But there is a way to take this text and keep its formatting attributes in place with the new words. And I'm not sure I've ever seen anyone demonstrate this before, but I'll show you how it works in the next exercise.